is unsustainable and must undergo fundamental change. Now, is it possible, one may ask, to maintain the virtues of a libertarian system without its chronic failures? I believe that it is. But to do so, one must paradoxically abandon the capitalist ideal. That is the idea that great capitals must be gathered in a few hands. Rather, the truth is precisely the opposite. Productive capital must be spread as widely as possible. When each man has his own property, each man has the possibility of being a true entrepreneur and also, I believe, a true citizen, contributing not only to his own well-being, but to the common good of his community, his city, and his nation. True ownership leads to true freedom, and also to a truly free market. By true ownership, I do not mean something like the abstract ownership embodied in, say, a share of stock or some other equity instrument. Rather, I mean physical possession and actual use of land or tools or knowledge. This is distributism. This is what distributism distributes. True ownership leading to free markets and true citizenship. Now, is this a utopian ideal like all the others? Again, I state the strict standard. No theory without practice. No practice without practical examples. Further, any practical examples must be on a large enough scale and over a long enough period of time to constitute a true test. Can distributism pass this test? Indeed it can. It can pass the test in such places as the Mondragon Cooperative Corporation of Spain, in the distributed economy of Emilia-Romagna, in the tremendous productivity created by the land-to-the-tiller program in Taiwan, and in thousands of cooperative ventures around the world. Just a few words about each of these. In Mondragon, we have a collection of cooperatives involving 100,000 worker owners that does $24 billion a year in sales in products as diverse as automotive parts, factories made to order, financial products, retailing, and agriculture. The corporation began after the Spanish Civil War had devastated the Basque country. But out of that poverty, the people were able to create true wealth based on their own determination and their own solidarity. In Emilia-Romagna, you have an economy in which 40% of the GDP comes from worker cooperatives. In this region, the average wages are twice that of the rest of Italy, and it enjoys one of the highest living standards in Europe. And Taiwan was a feudal backwater in the 1950s, with most people in virtual slavery to a comparatively few landowners. The government, in its land-to-the-tiller program, distributed the land to the farmers who actually worked it. The result was an explosion of productivity that fueled the tremendous growth of that island nation. So much so that it catapulted it from a backward society to an industrial powerhouse in just one generation. Now, you may read more about these examples in the anthology. Here, I want to address a question that is perhaps on everyone's mind. If the government can distribute land, as in the example of Taiwan, will the government have the same power to take what I have and give it to someone else? Someone else a bureaucrat might be more worthy than I. Well, this is a good question. In general, distributism is not about what the government ought to do, so much as about what the government ought to stop doing. Indeed, it is the very intrusion of government into the market that is the major cause of the accumulation of property. Nevertheless, there are cases, as on Taiwan, where ownership is so limited and the people so oppressed that even government action is warranted. This question is especially relevant to Eastern Europe. Now, I do not know the particular situation in Romania, but in Russia, there were peculiar circumstances that raised questions about the legitimacy of ownership. After the fall of communism, Russia accepted advice from experts from America's best universities and government agencies. However, this intelligentsia was easily outsmarted and outmaneuvered by moguls, many with connections to the security services or to the mafia. The result was that a few people managed to loot the wealth of the nation. In such a case, there are legitimate reasons for a government to question the legitimacy of such ownership and to act. Indeed, it is no more than people asking for their property back. As I said before, libertarianism has no real examples. But that is not quite true. For if you want to find a real example of libertarianism, of a real free market that is still able to provide for the needs of all of its citizens, you may look to Mondragon. There, the cooperatives provide for their own school systems, their own social safety networks, their own training institutes, their own research and development institutes, and even their own university, and do it all from their own funds without any government support. Now, the next question is whether distributism can actually be implemented in a country like Romania. But Romania is, I suspect, a country like Spain, or Italy, or Taiwan, where these things have been done, are being done. That is why Dr. Ţuclea and I put together this anthology to provide information on both the theory and the practice of distributism. But what we have not provided is a plan. Not a 5-year plan or otherwise. We have not given a plan because there is no plan. There is only citizens and businessmen each finding out what to do in their particular situation at their particular time and place. Healthy economies do not grow from the top down. They grow from the bottom up. Trying to grow an economy from the top is like trying to build a house starting with the roof. A true economy is built on the energy, independence, and entrepreneurship of the citizens and the business leaders. Now, the questions raised by this anthology are becoming more immediate every day. It is doubtful that the current system, even with tremendous support from governments, can survive much longer, either in the United States, or Europe, or indeed anywhere. Change is no longer an option. The system will either change or